In this episode, we sit down with Geri Jewell, the trailblazing actress, comedian, and advocate, best known for her role as Cousin Geri on The Facts of Life. She made history as the very first person with a visible disability to have a recurring role on a primetime TV series back when TV was huge. And we discuss her groundbreaking career, her experiences in Hollywood, and her ongoing work in advocacy today on Off the Couch. And welcome to Off the Couch, where psychology meets everyday life. I'm Dr. Greg Cason, psychologist, here with producer Brian Gomez.
Happy Monday, you guys.
And we have Noah on the board. Hey, Noah.
How's it going?
Today we have a very special guest. We have Geri Jewell, who's best known... Oh, thank you. Yes, I'm glad our studio audience responded. Thank you. Geri Jewell is best known as Cousin Geri on the NBC sitcoms The Facts of Life. This is The Facts of Life. For people who don't know, like I was trying to tell Brian on the way over here, TV was not the same. TV was like we only had a few channels.
Yes.
And The Facts of Life was this huge phenomenon of a show.
Yes.
And in fact, the episode you were on, I believe it was in December 1980 or something.
Oh,
and on Christmas
memory.
Eve or something, I can't remember exactly, but it was around that time. And it was the highest rated show that they had.
Up to that point.
Up to that point, yeah.
Yes, it was.
I mean, this was an unbelievable show. So millions and millions of people watching. This isn't like the streaming stuff now. She was known as the very first person with a visible disability to have a regular role on a TV series. Geri, welcome. I want to go through a little bit of your introduction just because. Okay. She began her career doing stand-up at the Comedy Store in 1978. I love that. In 1980, she performed at the second annual Media Access Awards. That's where you met Norman Lear, the producer of so many TV shows, including Facts of Life. Mm-hmm. And did he write the role for you?
He wrote the concept, but the staff writers, Joel Kimmel and Ann Gibbs, wrote the very first episode for me.
Well, that's so amazing. So he put you in the show. I mean, this is just like amazing stuff. After The Facts of Life, you appeared on TV shows like the Emmy Award-winning movie Two of a Kind. Was that the one with Robbie Benson?
Yes.
And Sesame Street, great story. 21 Jump Street, Young and the Restless, Strong Medicine. But the one, of course, I think stands out for a lot of people is HBO's Deadwood.
Oh, God, yes.
What a great show. I mean, phenomenon of a show where you also received an Emmy consideration for that. When you're not working in television, though, you're a highly sought-after motivational speaker and trainer. And in areas of diversity, disability, and LGBT issues, we'll have to talk about where that's all going today. Including major corporations and government agencies. Or at least, who knows what now. But she...
I know, really.
We'll talk. She's also the author of 2 books. I'm Walking as Straight as I Can, in her latest book, Geri's Jewels and Gems, which I'll talk to her about. That's a collection of her columns written for Ability Magazine over 6 years. So welcome, Geri.
Thank you.
I wanted to talk with you because there was just so much that was a parallel. I grew up in Huntington Beach, which is near. You grew up in Fullerton, so
yes,
we're both Orange County people. We know that we're about the same age, and my brother had a severe disability growing up. So I was keenly aware of you when I was in school and whatnot, because it was so exciting for me to see someone with a visible disability on television in my living room. Having that validation, because it was almost like another world.
Yes.
Especially, he's developmentally disabled in what was once known as mental retardation, severe mental retardation. It's now called intellectual disability, but he was severely disabled. And so, I mean, he doesn't quite have the life that you have, but it was so meaningful for me to see you, and you were always an inspiration. It's being able to see you do that and like have success, and you had great success.
That warmed my heart that I was able to make a difference in your life in that way.
Well, thank you. But I didn't know you were an Orange County girl, so that kind of flipped me out. And your dad, I'm going completely off script here. Your dad worked at the Westminster Memorial Park or something?
Yes, he did.
That's where my grandparents, my aunts and uncles, my mother has a plot.
Oh, my God.
It's like everyone in my family is buried there.
What a small world.
You kind of cracked me up. So, Orange County, I mean, people call, they look at it as somewhat glamorous, but it's, it's like any other place.
It's like any other city, really.
Yeah. So you have cerebral palsy.
Yes, I do.
And I wanted to just touch on that a little bit for this reason, because that's a visible disability that you have. I wanted to, can I just do a little bit of a definition, and then I want to touch on one thing.
A lot of people don't know what it is.
So cerebral palsy, I call it cerebral palsy. I always called it that,
So what?
So palsy, what a palsy is to people, refers to a medical condition characterized by the loss or impairment of voluntary muscle movement. It's often accompanied by weakness or tremors or paralysis. So historically, palsy was used to describe various forms of paralysis. In contemporary medical terminology, it's typically associated with conditions like Bell's palsy, which Brian had a friend who had that sudden temporary weakness on one side of the face.
Okay.
And cerebral palsy, which is a group of disorders affecting movement and posture, and it's caused by damage to a developing brain, most often before birth.
Yes.
And in the first book that you wrote, you tell the story about your mother, that when she was pregnant with you.
Yes. Would you like me to?
Yes, that'd be great.
Okay. Well, my mother was 6 months pregnant with me.
Yeah.
And we were believe it or not, we lived in Cheektowaga, New York, not Buffalo.
Oh.
We lived in Cheektowaga, but my parents were from Buffalo, so I have a lot of relatives in Buffalo. And she was sitting on the front porch of her home, my mom and dad's home, and this car came around the corner going way too fast, lost control, and ran up my parents' front lawn and knocked over the maple tree on the front lawn. And my mom ran to escape the tree. Mm. And in that process, she fell. And she was hemorrhaging, and she was rushed to the hospital. And I was born at 6 months instead of 9 months, premature. And they didn't expect me to live. Now, the reason I was born in Buffalo was because I was born at the Sisters Hospital in Buffalo. So technically, I was born in Buffalo. And a lot of things, a lot of trauma during my birth. I mean, the maple tree, the accident altogether. And then I was put into an isolate, and I was transferred to an incubator too soon, and I turned blue. And then a nurse had a cold and gave me pneumonia.
Oh, my God.
So
yes.
From the beginning of my life, it was earmarked by trauma. Mm-hmm. And I think that's why I'm still alive today. Because I am so conditioned to live. You're going to beat this. You're going to beat this. You're going to do this. even if I wanted to die, damn, I missed again.
In fact, your book is just one story after another. By the way, your book, that I'm Walking as Straight as I Can, it was the most human book because I could just keep seeing myself in your shoes. I kept thinking, you're not trying to portray yourself in the best light. You were portraying yourself in the most human light.
It was a very honest portrayal of how I perceived myself and how I perceived life.
Yeah, it was incredible. But you made a joke about cerebral palsy on Howard Stern. That's all that was to lead up to this joke, because he said, "What's it like having cerebral palsy?"
Well, I first came up with that line. I think I know what you're talking about. But when I did the, God, who was that? Stern?
Howard Stern?
Yeah, it was Howard Stern.
Yeah.
I know his name wasn't Howard. Yes, it was. Howard Stern. He was getting at me with his jokes.
Yeah, he's a radio shock jock. You know who he is. Okay, Brian doesn't always know.
The interview, and then he asked me what it was like to have cerebral palsy, so I decided to throw his sarcasm back at him. And I said, well, Howard, it's kind of like having an orgasm, only you never know when I'm coming or going. And I might add to that, cerebral palsy is like, well, have you ever heard of the that famous psychic doctor?
Edward Casey or something like that? Yeah.
Yeah. I read a book of his once, and he actually had cerebral palsy listed in his book.
Oh.
And he said that people that were born with cerebral palsy were sexually promiscuous in a past life, and therefore they are given cerebral palsy like they have a continuous orgasm with no pleasure.
Well, I guess you hit the nail on the head. And good for you in the former life.
Oh, no, really. Thank you, Edgar.
Yeah, that joke cracked me up, number one. I could certainly see you doing that on Howard Stern. And it's perfect for it. And you said he stared at you like he didn't know what to make of it.
But he mentioned me every single Valentine's Day from that day on.
Oh, was that on Valentine's Day you guys did it?
No, it wasn't. But he mentioned that every Valentine's Day. He said, for Valentine's Day, I want to be Geri Jewell because I want to have
a continual orgasm.
I want to have a continuous orgasm and not know when I'm coming or going.
Oh, that's great.
The, also in your book, you outlined that the disability community got very upset with you about that.
Not the disability community, but people who were involved in promoting disability and representing disability.
Okay, good. I'm glad to hear that.
Not the disabled community itself.
I'm glad to hear that because I was like, what? Because this was actually kind of a warm, wonderful, genuinely funny joke that you made. Yeah. So, but I do understand the people who are supporting often get a little high on the horse.
Everybody has their... I learned a long time ago when I started doing stand-up that every time I performed, I was going to offend at least one person, if not more. And if you're not offending anyone, then you're not any good as a comic.
So what? This is interesting to me because you knew from a young age you wanted to be an actor. You knew this was the direction you were going.
I did. I knew from the time I was in probably about 11 or 12 that I wanted to be an actress and a comedian and a writer, but I never wanted to be a stand-up. I got into that accidentally, kind of, sort of.
Well, what got you into that?
Huh?
What got you into doing stand-up?
I was in college, and I was in my third year of college, and I was flunking anatomy and physiology. I was flunking algebra for the third time. The logic in my brain had something wrong. I've never been logical. You can ask my parents.
Oh.
I was never logical. And I was very depressed, and I was sitting in the student services department for students with disabilities, and my friend Alex was there, and he said, "Hey, Geri, you seem really down today." And I said, "Well, yeah, I am." He said, "Why?" And I said, "Well, because I'm flunking classes, and I really don't want to be here." He said, "Well, what do you want to be?" "Well, I want to be in show business. I want to be an actress. I want to be a comedian." And he said, "Well, why don't you do what I do?" "Well, what do you do?" "I go to the Comedy Store every Monday night and tell blind jokes." And I said, "Well, Alex, that may work for you, but I don't know if you know this, but I can see you just fine, and blind jokes wouldn't fly." And he said, "No, dinky face." He used to call me dinky face, and he never saw my face. But he said, "No, dinky face, you go on stage and you tell cerebral palsy jokes." Really? And I didn't have idols. I didn't have stand-up idols. My big idol was Carol Burnett, so I didn't have Bob Hope or anybody else that I followed and wanted to do that. So Alex kind of got me into it. And I remember he was my coach. He said, "Geri, if you're going to succeed, you can't do just cerebral palsy jokes. You have to branch out. You can talk about cerebral palsy, but you'll lose half your audience if you don't get past that. So what you have to do is you have to read the newspapers. You have to see what's going on currently and talk about that and bring it in that way." So the first night that I ever performed at the Comedy Store, I had just read the paper. I took Alex's advice. And the audience thought that I was a guy when I came on stage.
Oh.
Because the MC introduced me as a he.
Oh, Geri.
'Cause Geri, they thought, large. You don't meet a lot of female Geris. You think of it as a male name. And he said, "Let's give him a big hand." Geri Jewell came all the way from Orange County. And I walked on stage, and I'm hearing impaired. And I could hear the murmurs. It was like, "Oh, that's a he?" And he drove like that from Orange County. And normally comedians have to fight for attention. I didn't have to fight for it. I had it magically. Now I had to do something with it. So the first thing out of my mouth was, I said, "I don't know about you people, but I've heard an awful lot about the gays that have been coming out of the closet lately." No laughter. They were staring. Oh, my God. But what you haven't heard about is all the cerebral palsy people that have been coming out of the closet. But don't tell anybody. I don't want anybody to know. And I especially don't want Anita Bryant to hear about it. Because she will go all around the country and she will say things like, "We must stop these people with cerebral palsy teaching in our public schools. They will influence our children, and before you know it, all our children will be moving like this." That was my opening line.
That's a great one.
Because Anita Bryant was in the paper. I was doing what Alex told me.
See? Very topical.
Yes.
She recently died, didn't she? I believe so. That's a great joke. So you hit it right out of the park the first
I
time.
got a standing ovation
Oh,
the
my
first
God.
night that I ever performed.
See, that's an addictive drug, I would imagine. Like, you got a main line of heroin doing comedy. I can see how you got stuck right there.
Exactly. But the following week I bombed.
You know, every comedian I hear talk to, it seems like their second show doesn't go well.
Because you're overconfident.
Oh.
I think because it was so easy the first time, so to speak. It really wasn't. I was a nervous wreck. But you think the same thing is going to happen. You know, 1 + 1 = 2.
Yeah.
Why didn't it equal 2? Why is it 5 now?
But then, you know, obviously people really latched onto you because you started to perform quite a bit.
Oh, yeah, I did.
And then you got that festival where you met Norman Lear.
Yeah, the second annual Media Access Awards.
Yeah, that was very soon out of the gate, wasn't it?
That was, well, you know what a lot of people don't realize is that the first movie that I ever did was a Cheech and Chong film. It was Nice Dreams. And if you ever see the film, I have film credit. I got my SAG card. I worked 3 weeks on that film, but you never see me in it. Because when I got the film, the insurance company had a problem with me. Said, well, the insurance is going to be really high if you hire someone like her. I mean, what if she trips over something? You know, it's Cheech and Chong. They're tripping all the time.
God.
And they're worried about me tripping. So I had to sign an agreement with the studio that I wouldn't walk anywhere. In other words, if I had to go to the restroom, excuse me, can I have a card? I need to go to the restroom. I wasn't allowed to walk on set anywhere. So after the 3rd week of filming, you know, I had just completed 3 weeks. I have a 4 a.m. call. And it was on Sunset Boulevard, and the set was up the hill. And I was late. It was like about 5 minutes to 4. And I was like, oh, my God. And a production assistant said, where are you going, Jewel? You can't walk. No, I can't. No, we'll get in trouble. We got to get you a cart. You can't walk up there. Can we get a cart for Jewel? Oh, there isn't any. So this truck came around the corner. And he said, hey, man, can you give Jewel a ride up to the set? Sure, man. Yeah, put her on the back of the truck. Now, hold on. And he took off so fast that I had involuntary movement and let go and fell off the truck. And I had to put a cast on my arm all the way up, halfway up my arm. And I remember sitting at the lunch table. That's when I got back. And I asked Tommy Chong to help me cut my meat because it was really hard with the cast.
Very nice.
And he was so depressed.
Oh.
He said, oh, my God, if they had only let you walk, because they couldn't match the shots. I had a cast on now.
Oh, no.
So I couldn't match the previous shots, so I got cut from the film.
Oh, no.
But I believe that there's a reason for everything in life. And it is a very good reason I got cut from the cast, because it came out right after I appeared on Back to Life.
Oh, my God.
Facts of Life would have never appreciated me being in a Cheech and Chong film.
No, Brian, just so you know, Cheech and Chong, big potheads, that's a huge theme of their movie. Like, that's basically I've just told you all their plots. And Facts of Life, super wholesome.
Yep.
Super duper wholesome. 4 young, or 5, whatever, how many young women, and then you were Cousin Geri. You weren't a student at the school, though.
No, I was not.
You were Cousin Geri, Blair
Warner.
Blair Warner's cousin. You were Jerry Warner, and then later became Jerry Tyler somehow. Like,
I've always resented that.
that they changed your last name.
Yeah, I never understood it. It hurt. And every time I hear it, even to this day, it still affects me.
I understand. And I bet the audience was with you, because there's nothing worse as an audience member than when something like that changes.
Yeah, I mean, it was even said in the episode that my name was Jerry Warner.
Yeah.
So, did I get married? And nobody was invited to my wedding? Blair, I'm sorry. I'm sorry you weren't invited, but I didn't even know I was married. I must have been on drugs.
Well, that's the Cheech and Chong movie.
From the movie.
So, But, yeah, that was an incredible... yeah, I do believe you're right. That would not have worked out well. And then actually Facts of Life is what really...
Of course.
...launched you. And that was such a groundbreaking thing.
Yeah, I mean... The Cheech and Chong film would have been wonderful. I mean, Timothy Leary was in the film, and he had given Marin Cheech an acid tablet. And when he was on acid, he saw me performing at the Comedy Store.
on acid that Leary gave him?
Yeah,
wow.
That was one of the scenes.
Oh, okay. Oh, it was in the movie. That's excellent. That would have been funny.
You're getting up first. No, I've never told that.
That is good. Yeah, and then you went on. You went on to play. Then you did Facts of Life, and that was. It sounded like, at least from your book, that was. It's kind of a push me pull you experience. It was difficult at times, it sounds like, but overall a good experience.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, in fact, Lisa Whelchel and I are very close even to this day.
She's incredible, and you guys were roommates for a while.
Yes,
yeah.
We were.
So that's kind of a wonderful thing, and it sounds like she was a good support.
Yeah, she was an amazing support, an amazing friend, and she never treated me any differently than anybody else.
Oh, good.
Yeah, it was a. We went in separate ways. How people grow and go in different paths, and then we reunited and we become friends again in our 60s.
60s. Well, we all got to get used to that one. But I wanted to talk about, I'm not trying to short shrift that. The Facts of Life was an amazing phenomenon. It was a huge, huge show. And Cousin Geri was a huge character, and everyone knew.
What? One of the lines on Facts of Life, which was brilliant, and it wasn't my line, it was the writer's, was... questions don't hurt, because Blair was upset because everybody was asking me questions about cerebral palsy. And my answer was, questions don't hurt, ignorance does.
Oh, beautiful.
Brilliant line.
Yeah, beautiful. In fact, Noah, are we putting up those photos Because we have a ton of photos. I haven't seen any of a ton of Facts of Life photos. One of them, that was where you, I don't know, I pulled that from somewhere. But the one, that was the one I wanted. You have the T-shirt, your famous T-shirt. I don't have cerebral palsy, I'm drunk.
Yeah.
Which is great. And then the joke you did on the show was kind of the opposite. I think you talked. Do you remember that, the joke you did on the show?
Do I remember the joke?
Oh, on the show, I think you kind of said it the opposite. You said to the girls, "Don't worry, I'm not drunk. I have cerebral palsy." And then you said, "When I'm drunk, I walk straighter."
Yeah.
It was actually great.
And that T-shirt, by the way, was the one that Facts of Life Wardrobe made for the show.
Uh-huh.
I wrote that joke early on and had that T-shirt made. And I still have it to this day. It has coffee stains, body odor stains.
Wow.
Everything all over it. But I didn't have a lot of money and I could only afford one. So I would wash it every day and wear it for the comedy.
Oh, wow.
I didn't realize until Facts of Life made me a duplicate of that T-shirt that all that time I had spelled cerebral palsy wrong.
You know?
I put an E in palsy, and I could have saved 30 cents.
If you just hadn't put that E?
I know, really.
I believe it. No, that is funny. It's an easy mistake to make, I think.
Not for me, because I'm a writer. I'm a writer, you know. And I've had cerebral palsy for how long, and you don't know how to spell it?
But then you were asked to perform at the White House.
Yeah.
And that was for a very special thing, which I didn't even write down. It was the Access.
Inspire 85.
Inspire 85, that's right. Inspire 85. And it was, you performed in front of the White House staff, invited guests, Nancy Reagan.
Yep.
It was during the Reagan years.
Yes, it was.
And tell us about that, because that was fascinating to me, because they wanted you to do jokes and you didn't want to.
Well, I'll shorten that.
Yeah.
What happened is they wanted me to do 10 minutes of stand-up. And I was cool with that. I could do 10 minutes of stand-up. And then somewhere along the line, it was knocked down from 10 minutes to 2 minutes. And what people didn't understand was that I knew someone on the board of directors at the White House. Mm-hmm. And she was telling me of the meetings they were having every day. And they said, you know, you have a lot of problems. And I said, what are you talking about? Well, it seems you ruffled a few feathers with your orgasm joke. On national television, Geri, and they don't believe that you're a good role model for people with disabilities.
Oh, geez.
And I was like, oh, my God. So they knocked your time from 10 minutes to 2 minutes. And I said, how is that going to make a difference? Well, you're not going to believe this, but Nancy Reagan herself came to your defense. Wow, does she know I'm a Democrat?
Good for Nancy, by the way.
She said that regardless of her questionable material at times, she is the most highly visible person with a disability, successful person with a disability in the United States. And we have to honor that. So I think what we can do is knock her time down from 10 minutes to 2 minutes. Then she won't have time to get into the orgasm joke. And I
takes time to bring people to orgasm. Yeah.
I was young, you know. I was like, "No, I don't want to do it. No, I'm not going to do it." And my friend said, "You're an idiot to turn down a performance at the White House. Use your brain." And I said, "No, I'm being censored. I don't care. You're going to do it." And what I did is everybody thought that I was going to do stand-up comedy, 2 minutes, and I surprised everybody at the White House. I said, "You know, I thought about doing stand-up comedy today, but then I thought, nah." And everybody's like, "Oh, no. No, what is she going to do?" You know, I thought about just telling the orgasm joke. I didn't say that, but that's what was going through my head. I should just tell the orgasm joke and walk out. No, I said, but...
That would have been a ball drop right there, yeah. Or mic drop, I guess, is what they say.
That would have been a stupid thing to do, Jewel. So what I said was, I decided to share with you a little bit about my philosophy on life.
And I have that clip.
Do you?
I have that clip. Can you put that up? Because this was so touching to me.
I'd like to introduce.
Here we go.
This young lady. She is a jewel indeed. At 29, she already had a book on her life, a 6-year career as a stand-up comic, a hit series, her 4-year run on Facts of Life, and a new series pending for the coming season. Today, we asked her to say a few words on the theme of the Inspire 85 program, and I am proud to have you meet Miss Geri Jewell. Geri?
So she's walking out to present at the White House right now.
Oh, my God. I haven't seen this in decades.
It's incredible.
Thank you. First, I'd like to say how honored I am to be a part of this event, Inspire 85. And needless to say, I was nervous about what I was going to say. But after I thought about it, I thought that I'd like to share with you something that means a lot to me. A philosophy that I've come to understand over the years, that love and fear cannot exist at the same time. The two conflict. One cannot exist in the presence of the other. Now think for a moment how we react to fear. We either attack it, deny it, alienate, or avoid. As a result, this leads to prejudice and discrimination. We are not born into the world with feelings of prejudice. Prejudice is a learned behavior. And as I stressed before, fear is what stops us from loving and accepting genuinely. I firmly believe that in order to begin to deal with accepting and loving people, we have to learn to deal with our own fears within all of us. Only then can we begin to accept others on a whole. I would only hope that a heightened awareness and insight that self-acceptance and self-love, the acceptance of our own inadequacies, will give us the freedom to see the humor and the beauty that flows through all of us. Thank you, and in the spirit of love, God bless you all.
Oh, my God.
That was incredible.
Wow. Like I said, I hadn't seen that in decades.
What do you think?
It brought tears to my eyes a little bit because I remember how terrified I was. I was absolutely petrified to do something what nobody expected, and I could have easily fallen flat on my face. And what happened was I got a standing ovation, and I was invited to perform at the Kennedy Center that same day.
Incredible. And in fact, I was so moved by this. I watched it many times. I didn't just watch it once. I watched it many times. And I played it for Brian. I was so moved by it.
I loved it. I feel like this should be displayed on like every TV right now. You know, it's so important.
It's needed right now, so desperately.
And then you played a role in my sister's eulogy for this reason, because I was so touched by that, and I had to write a eulogy for her.
Oh.
And like I said, you know, I had to cancel because the previous time, because she had died the day before, in the afternoon before.
So
and actually, your book, Geri's Jewels and Gems, I had it with me. I went down to see my mom, and I had it with me because, you know, I was getting prepared for the interview. I just cracked open the book, and in the book was the story of Gloria, your sister.
I did.
And I didn't know she had passed. I didn't read that yet. And when I read that, it was the weirdest, most comforting thing to read your story of, you know, dealing with passing and dealing with her, and, you know, and how much you loved her. And then having had that just happen to me that day. Not that it happened to me, but just happened in my life.
Of course.
And so that was a weird coincidence. Then that talk at the White House was so moving to me that I started the eulogy this way, just so you know. I started it, love and fear cannot coexist at the same time. The two conflict. One cannot exist in the presence of the other. These words were spoken by the actress and disability advocate Geri Jewell at Inspire 85. Hold deep meaning for me today as I remember my sister Michelle. Sorry. Because if there is one thing about Michelle is that love always cut through fear.
Yes.
So.
Wow.
I just wanted to say thank you for, you know, giving me those words to be able to talk about that.
And I just felt my sister and your sister. They're here.
Hanging out. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm sure they would like each other. They sounded like they're two of a kind, like fun people that, you know, like popular, fun, you know.
Oh, yeah, that was Gloria.
OC gals.
What was your sister's name?
Well, my sister's name is Michelle.
Michelle.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that was kind of an interesting thing, and very touching to me. And your words actually in this book, this is your newer book, The Geri's Jewels and Gems. I had earmarked so many things in this book because it was just one inspiration after another, which is why you wrote, I mean, it was basically an inspirational column.
You know, I wrote for Ability Magazine after they interviewed me on my first book. And the editor was so impressed with my writing, he asked me if I would write for Ability.
Wow.
And he wanted comedic stuff in there because it was so heavy. Everything was on disability, and he thought my comedy would balance it. And there was a lot of comedy in my writing.
You always put funny stuff in, but
yeah, I throw it in.
Yeah.
But in 2020, when we had the lockdown with COVID, and everybody was just up in arms with where we're going and what we're doing, it was a depressing time, and I remember reading my columns, and I thought, oh my God, those columns that I wrote then are needed more now than they actually were when I wrote them. So I went to the editors, and I asked him if I could please use those articles in a book. And he gave me his blessings and signed me off and said, okay.
Wow.
And I'm right. This book is so needed today.
Today in 2025, it's needed.
Yeah, it's needed even more.
Even
now.
more. Because what's this? I mean, we could launch into that. The weird decimation of DEI. People don't understand if I may say, my own editorial here. Diversity, equity, inclusion includes disability.
Yep.
And that's what we're trying to get rid of, is trying to make room for people who are in any way different, in any way, something that we're afraid of.
Uh-huh.
And here you are, anyway, the fear I have, and I think many people do, and there's lots of evidence for it, is we're seeing the decimation of science, the decimation of education, the decimation of things that, finance right now is, our stock market and the dollar value going down. I mean, we're seeing a lot of stuff happening in this country like it's being self-inflicted.
Yes.
And we're doing this to our own people. And I think that a book with these words are even more important today. In fact, there was one thing I wrote from this book, if you don't mind me saying. You wrote that the real crippling disabilities in life are disabilities of the spirit. Hatred, envy, prejudice, loss of faith, bullying, despair, deception, hypocrisy, greed, and false pride.
Yep. And I firmly stand behind that.
Yeah, no, and the book has many, you're exactly right. And in fact, you wrote very honestly in this book, because you wrote about your own fears, your own different things. And it was really nice because it's inspirational, because I had this experience where I kept seeing myself in this, like, oh yeah, I agree. I see that.
Well, Norman Lear and I were very close, and he wrote the foreword for this book.
Yes, he did.
And that was his last gift to me at 100 years old. He
my
wrote
God.
the foreword for me.
Wow. That's incredible, Geri.
I feel so blessed, and I miss him. I miss Norman so much, because he was so close to me, and he called me. We FaceTimed. It was just like he was my buddy. He was like a surrogate dad to me.
Yeah, I can see that. He seemed like a genuinely good soul and really wanted to make a difference in the world.
He was, and he did.
Yeah. And Brian, you don't know, he didn't just have Facts of Life. He had major television shows, Maude, All in the Family. It was the Jeffersons. One of his shows, yeah.
Stanford and Son.
Oh, right. I love that show.
Yep.
I'm coming, Elizabeth. But yeah. He was an incredible producer, like
he was.
Talent. So yeah, and your books, if I can just say, I thought there was just too much. We don't have much time, but I wanted to say some of the other things. You had so much wisdom in your books, but two standout statements in your I'm Walking as Straight as I Can book, which I love, which has so many meanings. I love that. But you said there should be no shame in asking for help. Rather, shame is not asking for it instead and giving up.
Yes.
I love that. And when you were talking, you were on Phil Donahue. I won't go into that, but you were on Phil Donahue promoting a book you didn't write, and you were there reluctantly. You did not want to be there, you said.
No, I did not.
And he apparently read the book, earmarked everything, and was ready to ask you all these questions. But you pointed out the cover of the book said, "A warm, fuzzy, moving account of a woman's rise to stardom and triumph over cerebral palsy." And you said, it's not about and then you personally said, it's not about overcoming a disability, but learning to accept it so that you can live life to the fullest.
Yes. That sounds like me.
Which is brilliant. Which is that's absolutely it right there. So that was great.
And I still have to honor my own wisdom on a daily basis, because today's world is very hard for all of us.
It is hard. I'm afraid If I don't, I know I shouldn't perhaps say that. I'm concerned, maybe concerned, deeply concerned. And I hope that we can make the world, I hope we wake up and, to understand we need to support all of our people, everyone.
I do too. I just, I spent the last weekend watching movies, and I watched The Judgment of Nuremberg. At Nuremberg. I watched, what was the other one? Inherit the Wind.
Oh.
And I just
those can
devoured all the dialogue, and I realized that, oh my God, here we are again.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe not the best thing. That we're here again.
Well, the truth of the matter is it was never gone.
That is the truth. The other truth is, the hope I have, Geri, is that we got through it before.
Yes, we did.
And we triumphed. It's a little like going back to the beginning of your life, that you were going to push through and live no matter what.
Yep.
And, that little spirit in that little body that just said, no, not today, death. I'm going forward, and kept pushing, and all the adversity that you've had to face, and all the uphill battles, and yet you still triumphed, and that's an incredible gift.
Well, that's what we all have to do.
Yes.
And I'm not going to say it's easy, because it isn't easy for me.
No.
I read my own books sometimes. Oh, yeah, that's right.
It is good to remind ourselves of our own selves sometimes. And you also wrote, if we really listen and accept one another, we can grow and evolve into better human beings.
Yes, that is true.
That's where I learn all my lessons, from other people. It's true.
Me too. I've been very blessed with amazing teachers in life. And even though I'm hearing impaired and I've missed a lot of stuff, intuitively, I think I grasp on to a lot more than I even hear.
Yes. Well, thank you, Geri. I thank you, Geri Jewell. It's incredible having you, and I'm glad that we did get back together. And if we're going back to everything happens for a reason, maybe it was for that reason, to help guide me through the loss of my own sister, because you played a role in that, an unintentional one, but it was you were very helpful through that whole process.
I am blessed to be a part of that journey.
Thank you.
And I would love to come back and do this again with you.
Oh, I'd love that. I really would.
That.
Yeah, because it was too short.
I know. We didn't get to a lot of stuff.
I know we didn't. But thank you for being here. I really appreciate you coming down.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, that brings us to the end of the show. A reminder to like, subscribe, give us 5 stars. Also links to this. Well, we don't have any studies today. I have links to Geri's books. I will have links to your website, your books, everything.
Oh, yeah.
In the YouTube link. So if you go to youtube.com/Dr. Greg of this video, it'll have the links. Also, if you have questions or topics you'd like us to cover, hit us up on the socials at Ask Dr. Greg. This is Dr. Greg, Brian, Noah, and the incredible Geri Jewell bidding you farewell until next time. Be present, be flexible, and be kind.